Hey everybody, the Tree City Growthcast is being brought to you by our company, Tree City Creative. We are a full-service creative marketing company, and we absolutely love helping to produce things like brand videos, social content, podcasts. We do live event production and programming. If it involves getting your messaging down and then helping to get that message captured beautifully and then out to as many people as possible, we would love to help you out with your endeavors. So please, get in touch. I got my friend Phil Sanders here, longtime friend, soccer buddy. We used to play soccer together, best buddies. Lives in Chattanooga now, which we're in Atlanta. And so I don't see him quite as much, but it's a special treat having him in the studio today. So I wanted to start off your story by actually kind of talking a little bit about soccer, not about soccer, but where we were at a very pivotal time in your life, especially for all of our lives, but particularly for you. So Phil ran a company called Citizens Apply for how many years?
I mean, 6 total. Yeah, 6, 2015 to like December 31st, 2021.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was a makerspace.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, so the whole value prop was we were a brick and mortar location for like direct to consumer, like really small direct to consumer brands, right? Brands that could not afford prime real estate. So we had that, but like it was a 12,000 square foot space, and over time it evolved to having shop and shops, very much like maker driven, but also really small brands, so like men's goods, home goods, women's. We also had like a bar in there, you know, so
Likewise.
it was the whole deal. Yep.
The bar was called Likewise. We had many great parties there.
Yeah, many good
great
times.
nights there. Although short-lived, that part of it, right? That was towards
just
the
a
end.
year, yeah.
A year towards the end. But I remember very well. So, by the way, it was in the coolest location possible in Atlanta. There's a place called Ponce City Market, and giant old, what was it, an old Sears and Roebuck building from the 30s, 20s?
I have no idea.
Something like that, but a very old and they've kept, really cool looking.
Cool now.
Really cool. And they had a lot of the second floor of this entire space.
Yeah, we were the first to open on the second floor, so we like opened that place up.
Incredible. Amazing looking place, beautiful factory looking kind of windows, brick, just a beautiful space. But we were together after a game of soccer. We went out, had a few drinks on the Monday night before the world shut down. That Wednesday, I believe it was. I was looking it up. Trump went on that Wednesday and said, we're shutting down, basically. And I just remember sitting with you at that bar with our friends, and we were seeing the news rolling in. They had CNN or something on, and it was looking imminent that everything, it was going in that direction. And I just remembered you saying, kind of head in hand, saying, this is going to kill my business.
Yeah.
And it took a while before you guys shut down, but ultimately
it did,
it kind of did, right? So walk us through that. I mean, you guys pivoted for a long time. You were even doing well. It just eventually became revenue-wise, right? But tell us about that, going through the pandemic.
I mean, it's kind of similar. I don't know if you remember, I don't know if it was 2016 or 2017, but do you remember I-85 bridge burning down?
Yes.
Okay, so I remember being in our store.
So we should say I-85, huge corridor that goes through Atlanta.
Coming through Atlanta, but like a lot of Ponce City Market. So we're brick and mortar, so most of everything's foot traffic, right? And so like on the weekends, the place we were in got a lot of out of the city patrons, you know? So it's
coming in.
So when that bridge burned down, like we saw like a 30% drop in our, weekend traffic, which was, the weekends you get 4 of them a month, and that was where the majority of our revenue came from. So I saw that, and then I think looking at, we played soccer, I think it was like a Monday night, and then you saw the NBA shut down. You started seeing it was just like hit after hit after hit. And I think entrepreneurs are mostly like optimistic.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, we'll figure it out. And then once you see that happen, and that just experience with the bridge, burning down, and that only lasted like maybe 4 months.
Right. They rebuilt it really quickly.
Super quick. But understanding that, and just like we were what do you call it? Like a non-essential business. Like we filled all
Retail
that stuff. So
yeah,
we knew that it was just going to be incredibly difficult, and I think that just opened up through the whole deal, because I think that night you and I actually went to the grocery store, and we got all the food, and it was just kind of crazy. But
I remember that. I forgot about that part.
But yeah, no, I think there was no way we could have known what was going to happen. But when that hit, I think we shut down March 16th. And so going up to that point, we were probably like a $3.5 million business from that one location. Because the whole thing was, we're going to prove in this one location, then we're going to like move beyond it. And
Right.
the business was actually like, we were talking to investors to take us to new places. We were talking to other, properties across the nation about like moving it. And it finally felt like, okay, like I put in my time, I put in my 4 years, like we're profitable, we're at a revenue amount, like I got a good team, like all these kind of markers of a company finally making it through. And then COVID hits and we went from, averaging several $100,000 a month. And in April of 2020, we did like $200, literally, And I think when something hits like that insanely, it kind of just, you don't even really know what to do. Like it's an out of body experience that you're just like, I don't even know. But what was interesting about that whole process is, we got the PPP stuff and it was forgivable, but when we got it, you had 8 weeks to spend it. And so we had to retain all our employees. And then by week 7, like, hey, you just spend it whenever. And they're like, oh, this is,
changed.
and so we had spent all our cash and then they were like, you can spend it whenever. And now we had no cash, but the store's opening back up. So now, we were just kind of keeping people on payroll because we had to use it. And then we got the idle loan. So that floated like the cash deficit we had while we were ramping up revenue. And then once revenue ramped up, well, now supply chain is jacked, labor's costing more, lease structures are changing. So revenue hit what it was, but all our margins were off. So it just felt like we were constantly just a few steps behind, and like, then you had all these variants come out throughout that first year where it's, okay, we're back. No, we're not, like a new variant. So we'd see our foot traffic just going up and down and up and down. And it was just this pretty chaotic cycle. But I think that it was also one of those things, like if you look at any entrepreneurial kind of career, anybody that you really respected as like a business owner, I think that the vast majority of them hit this like wall. They hit something that either breaks them almost completely or like they just sniff death a little bit, And for us, like this was that, and it forced a lot of things in me. I mean, we didn't build Citizen Supply like on a house of cards. But it was very much that mentality of like revenue covers a multitude of sins. So as long as we're growing top line, like we're just gonna be able to cash flow it going forward. So, it's interesting because that closure ended up driving me personally through bankruptcy. And now I'm like 2 years, I'm actually only a year and a half removed from being discharged from bankruptcy, but I'm 4 years almost removed from the company because it took a while to navigate afterwards. But I mean, looking back truly, like I actually am grateful for that journey, which it takes a long time to be grateful. But once you kind of get out of this, like, am I going to die? Like, I would think as soon as I left Citizen, so kind of to give some context for how it all ended, we made it through 2 years and I had a really, really good board of advisors, which is basically, they were also investors, but they were there also to advise me on how to navigate certain things. And one of those things was financials. And we would meet once a quarter for about half a day. And then we would go through all the financials, all the key like issues in operations or marketing or whatever. And they would lend advice. And I was, there's a point, it's like sunk cost fallacy where you just like, I got so much, I'll just keep going. And I'll never forget, it was like 2021, October, we were meeting. And, I had another $1 million I could pull on a line of credit from the SBA. Right. And I was like, I'm going in the meeting thinking like, hey, we'll just pull this and we'll make it happen another year. And they were like, you cannot, like that's too much debt. You're not investable. You can't recover. Like it'll be a 5-year process just to get back from that. But I think that I was just so like, hey, we're gonna figure it out eventually. We just got to keep, getting a little bit worse before it gets better kind of thing. But in that meeting, they were just like, he told me something pretty critical. He was like, you can just have your equity back. Like you can just have everything we own back. But like, if you take that debt, like I'm out, And that guy's been my mentor for probably, now it's been like 15 years, but at that point for probably 10. And I had more weight in that relationship than I did almost in the I was like, if he's doing that, then this is how serious, like, he's taking this. So anyway, long story short, from October through December, we basically like chose to like dissolve the business, right? And that was super tough because it just, like, we didn't have cash to pay out severance, and like all the navigating holiday season in a retail with a landlord is super difficult.
Yes.
But you just have, when you have all these hits that are pretty like trauma inducing.
Right.
You know, and then you just end. And then so I'm like, it's literally December 31st. I'm walking out with kind of like my box. Like, it's almost like I got fired.
That's
know,
the video.
Like the landlords took over the company, and it was a whole deal, and walking out, and then it's just like, now I'm a time billionaire. Like, I'm at home with no job, no money, and like almost $1 million of debt, And so there was about a year of just like kind of regaining confidence. So through the last couple years, it has really been a process of like regaining confidence and realizing like the thing that you thought was going to kill you didn't actually kill you, and family keeps moving along. The real relationships keep moving along. Nobody really puts your identity in that business but you, so there's a lot of this kind of slow moving but huge things. And
that's a great point. I like that about your identity is in it, but you have a lot of people that love you that.
Oh yeah. I mean, dude, and you remember this, so we closed the business, or I left the business December 31st, 2021. But in August of that year, we moved to Chattanooga.
Yes. Right.
So we were in Chattanooga.
When I sold the house over the summer.
We sold the house. Yeah. But when I left, Anna was, and that's my wife, Anna was 6 months pregnant. We were behind by like 6 months on a house renovation. Just walked out of the company, zero cash because we spent it all trying to get the company to go. And then now I have like no job, right? So there was just like all this in one phase, and just kind of younger kids too, like whole new city, whole new everything. And so I think that like, I look back at that season and just think it just takes time for those things to get resolved. Like 6 more months, okay, now you have Marigold. It took a couple months to get a job. It took another year and a half to finish that damn house, and then it took another 2 years to get out of the bankruptcy. And I think, and I'm like riffing, so I hope you're cool with this, but like the crazy thing was, and this was what was so, I'm actually really grateful for, was with bankruptcy. Like, so we had about 6 different loans. Nothing was super big except for this kind of SBA loan that was given out during COVID. But the thing, like all of them were like normal, just kind of growth loans that we had pulled before COVID, and they were fine. But in total, it was like $900,000, you know? So the attorneys, like, so I had some good attorneys and some good advisors around me when I left, and they were like, the number one advice was like, do not get sued. Like, you just can't get sued. And so we kind of set a strategy that was.
And was there risk of that from?
Oh yeah. I defaulted on all these things.
Yeah.
Well, not the landlords. So, and I can't get into too much of the contract, but yeah, there wasn't a risk there. But on the ones that were personally guaranteed, like I think 5 of the 6 of those loans were personally guaranteed. So anyway, the advice is basically don't get sued, which means like don't go out and earn. Like, you don't go out and just get a job where like, you're going to default, and you need to kind of go get a job where it's like, oh, if we sued Phil, like we wouldn't really get anything. Oh, there's nothing to collect, right? So it kind of gave me permission for the first time in forever to just say, hey, just like kind of chill. Like, go make 60 grand a year.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, go like 60, 70, that was my limit.
Right.
And I'm always like, how do we just grow something big, you know? And so I had to sit in that until September of 2023. So like 2.5 full years. And it kind of just like forced me to just like chill a little bit, or like remove expectations. And so anyway, you just see, you know, my faith really grew a lot in that season. But I think that, you know, when I look back, gratitude wasn't instant, but it was something that, I don't know when exactly it happened, but probably about 1.5 years after, I'm like, I am changing. Like the thing, like the way I just think about things, and when you realize like I've overcome this thing, and you know, all the things you thought would happen didn't, it just turns into, oh, like we can do this again, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you listen to any good How I Built This podcast, like there's some kind of crazy thing that happens, right?
Right, yeah.
And to kind of be on the other side of that, now I'm a changed kind of person and entrepreneur, and all that stuff is a cool place to be.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Well, and you kind of so the way you got into this, you have kind of always been an entrepreneur, right?
Get into what?
Getting into having Citizen Supply.
Oh yeah.
You had because you had your wife Anna, and you had 3 pennies.
3
You
pennies.
guys had that, which did very well, right?
Yeah.
And then through that, you got into a co-working space.
Yeah, co-working was
that
more
kinda-
like, co-working was more like it filled a need for ourselves. Like we needed an office space.
Yeah, but not
Like,
everybody says,
hey,
let's
yeah,
just
yeah.
make one for everyone.
Yeah,
Because that was you had a lot of people in there.
Yeah, I mean, that's also what led to Citizen. So
Right.
it was right across the street from Ponce.
And you were
and
doing
we were doing,
markets.
yeah, do some maker markets, and they asked us to do it kind of full on at Ponce. So,
And somebody from Ponce kind of saw what you were doing and
Yeah.
liked it and were like, this could work on
Yeah.
a bigger scale.
it's interesting to see too behind the curtains of like a massive organization like that ran Ponce City Market,
Right.
where you're just like, you kind of can do a lot by being and not having a huge resume. Like it's like
Yeah.
if you ask and you can kind of negotiate and you can understand the pain points of the other party, and like there's a lot of opportunities. Like you would be surprised what small businesses were in Ponce just because
Yeah.
they were like, yo, is anybody in the space? What
Can
would
I
y'all think?
just-
And that's kind of how it started, you know? So yeah, no, a lot of cool lessons learned, but yeah, we had about, I'd say like 6 or 7 years of entrepreneurship before starting Citizen, but like
Right.
service-based,
Yeah.
you know, not product-based, but yeah.
Right. And that's a whole new game getting into
Yeah.
what you were doing a little bit through there.
Yeah, whole new game.
How did you go about making all the relationships with all the artisans and makers that you guys had in there?
I mean, I had that initial set from the co-working space. We do like once a
Right.
quarter maker pop-ups. But I think that this is one of the, like when you look back at what you were doing, like in the season when you were like super pumped about the results you were getting, like what was I doing? Like the results I was getting at Citizen from just purely getting new vendors in.
Yeah.
I was just calling people that I thought were cool and just like pitching them.
Right.
Like I was genuinely like, you want to be in this thing, you know? And that when you get your wrist slapped, like we did with the bankruptcy and the COVID stuff, it's like, you kind of become hesitant to do that again. Cause like,
Right.
oh, well, what if the worst thing happens? But ultimately like entrepreneurship is risk. Like it is risk.
Right.
And if you aren't like fully sold on something, like nobody will be, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I started with that base of makers that we did, and I tried to do well with the city of Atlanta and get like a lot of city of Atlanta and Georgia and Southeastern brands in there. And then kind of as it evolved, we realized like we have to bring in maybe some more, not national brands, but brands that were doing more around like between 30 million and maybe 50 million that could supply what we needed to. You needed some
Right,
anchors in there. So
continuous.
we had a good mix. I mean, we ultimately had like 450 brands in that space. I mean, it's 12,000 square feet. It takes a lot.
Right.
But such a learning process.
Well, and you
Yeah.
guys gave such a great outlet and exposure to a lot of those
Yeah.
makers that have gone on to still have successful businesses. I think is such a cool part of the legacy.
Yeah, it's cool.
That you guys had in the plant shop. I mean, they're now multiple
Yeah.
locations, and they kind of got their start with you all, like, or at least a lot
Yeah.
more exposure. And I'm sure there's a lot
Yeah.
more like that too. So I love that part of the story, and how good you were at making relationships. And I really love what you were saying about if you're just doing stuff and asking the right questions.
Yeah.
I mean, I was talking to a friend a little while ago that was his company, they do like web development, and they were working for, Google and all this. And like, he doesn't really have like a resume before.
Sure.
And they're like, I could never get hired by one of these companies, but I can go in and take a major part of work, for them, just because they're proving already what they can do by doing it for other people. And it's not that hard for people to take the leap and be like, oh, it's working here. Like we can,
Yeah.
and it seems like that's kind of what
Well, it's
happened.
what's happening with you. You're just, hey, this is kind of how I want because I think business should achieve what you want in life. Like it's the
Right.
vessel by which you will achieve the things that you want in life. From like
Yes.
if you want more time control, more financial freedom, like the best way to earn wealth is through entrepreneurship. Like it's
Right.
the fastest way. And so you can just learn anything now. And I think with AI and all that makes accessible, you really can go, again, you have to have conviction. Like you have to really, it's pretty, risky in the beginning. Like people have to take a risk on you. But if you're like,
Right.
hey, I can deliver this outcome and I'll work for you until I get it. Like if you're just
Yes.
committed to that, then you can go out and just say, hey, like I'm gonna build this thing. Do you want in? And I'll do this for you. And, and try to remove the risk from them and put the risk on you because you're the entrepreneur and
Right.
just go for it, right? I mean, worst thing that they can say is no.
Right.
And I think as long as you protect, like you don't make it so risky for yourself,
Yes.
right? With the worst case isn't bankruptcy,
Right,
right?
right,
Or like,
right.
depleting all the savings in your personal life. I think that you'll learn on the job, and ultimately that will flywheel into
Yeah.
a good business.
I mean, I love that you're still sold out to being an entrepreneur. I think I remembered you saying somewhere during that time, you're like, I went to go make a resume and I was like, I can't do this. I just have to.
It's easier for me to start a business than it is to write a
one
resume. Yeah. Hey, ChatGPT, can you just, I don't know, write me something? You know, it's
Now you could do that. Maybe a few
yeah.
years ago you couldn't.
I know.
That, but
I had a W-2 for straight up, I think, not even a year.
Okay,
and it's straight, and dude, it pissed me off because I had it, I was like, I'll do the W-2 thing. And it was good. Like, they were good to me. But the thing that sucked is we were so cash poor. Dude, I had like these 2 terrible like cavities in my mouth.
Right.
And I got on this W-2. And then I was like, we can't afford to go get that, because my dental didn't kick in for a year.
Oh, no.
For a whole year, I was like, I could only chew with the front of my mouth.
Time.
And then month 11, he's like, hey, I think I'm gonna dissolve the business. And I was like, what the hell? You know, and so like, I just went and I was like waiting for dental. So I missed getting my teeth done by like a month. But anyway.
The whole reason you were there.
Yeah, no, I just came here to get the dental work, you know, but it didn't work out, so.
Man. Well, and I also love just seeing your attitude. And I know, you know, we had times when you were really down, but I mean, I get the sense even now from you looking back is kind of realizing life still goes on. Like even
100%.
with you were waking up, you were like, my identity is gone, but my identity in the eyes of the people who care about me is still pretty much the same. I just drive to a different place or don't drive to work.
I mean, like your
whatever.
kids don't ask you to start a business. They could care less what you do. They just want you to show up. And I mean, it took a really long time for me to just kind of get out of the fog, you know? I mean, but you know, you show up and, I mean, there's a few things I did that were really impactful. Like I took a whole year off of alcohol, and like when I left Citizen.
Train now or?
Oh, a little bit, yeah. Not as much. I mean, the relationship changed, and I wasn't like drinking every day. It was just,
but you did.
I got to this point where I was like, I don't want to be an employee, you know, and if I'm going to honor this employer that was, you know, it was great to me, how can I build like a business slowly, right? And I could only do that between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m. And I was like, the only way I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. every day to build this is if I cut out a few beers or, you know, like what's not serving this season. And so I just cut it out for a year. And I think that some of those things are really, again, you just start building this flywheel of momentum. It's like you just keep like, have a solid day, tie 2 days together, tie a week together, tie a month together.
Right.
And it just like, you kick up enough dirt and enough momentum, and before you know it, it's like, oh, I got a little something going on here. Yeah. So
and
it's
you just have to try a lot of things too, like, right?
Yeah, failure's just part of the process.
Yes.
100%. Yeah, and I think that like, there's this interesting thing where, like I said, you know, entrepreneurship is risk. Mm-hmm. And for me earlier, it was like suicidal risk. Like I was so far on the spectrum of like, I'm invincible.
Yeah,
and then once I started realizing, okay, I'm not invincible, like the hole I dug was so deep. Like that ship, I mean, when you have a $4 million company with 35 employees that has some really deep contracts, like this takes a long time to make a change, you know? And so we had something happen in 2018 that kind of rocked my world, and I basically reprioritized my life. And so I was turning that ship around as 2020 hit. But what I'm saying is like, when it did hit and I finally did go bankrupt, I reverted all the way back to, I'm gonna make a business that's the safest thing you've ever seen. And that's almost like cowardly. It's like, you can't take all the risk out of business, right? Like you can't, you'll never grow.
Right.
And so I think it's like finding this balance of what's the right amount of risk for this season. And if you're in a scaling season, like that's gonna be more risk. If you're more in a, hey, we're letting our team get acclimated and we're gonna delegate some responsibility, that's a season maybe you're taking on less risk, but you're working more internal. So I think that this was a big lesson of just, you don't have to be all the way over here. You definitely can't be all the way over here. Just find this pattern, but that requires you to be very present to the business and to, you know, what your life is requiring of you and things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like you found a good balance now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, I have. Yeah. That's good.
But you're right. I mean, everything, I mean, because even doing something like this, like, I mean, this felt like a natural thing because we've got all this equipment from our other work, and I've got this great space that I'm connected to and have been for years, and it felt like a good thing. But it was like, will it work? I don't know. You know, we'll see. We're on the front end of it. But even if it doesn't, you learn a lot. Like we wouldn't be
Yeah.
sitting here having this conversation, and connections that you make through it.
Sure.
And that's what I love about what I'm sensing from a lot of your story is that life kept going on, even in the midst of the last thing you wanted to happen.
Yeah.
And you're still sold out even to be an entrepreneur. You can't even write a resume. You love it so much.
That's the only way, man. Yeah.
Which I love, which I want to talk about that because you've had all these experiences doing 3.5 million in revenue, you were saying earlier, that not a lot of people get to have.
It's crazy how few actually get beyond $1 million.
Right. Yeah, very few. And so now you're kind of leveraging that experience and all the things that you've walked through to help guide other people. Is that a fair way to say
I mean,
kind of
like
what you're up to now?
when I left, I got the job, but even the job, pretty quickly I was like, we're going to need more money than this. Because as I realized that the bankruptcy process was going to take years, not months, we kind of had to navigate, like the amount I was making at the job wasn't enough to cover. So I had to start getting some clients and just really easy kind of retainer clients. So I kind of started out as more of this, again, I'm navigating bankruptcy, I have a full-time job, and I'm like, what else can I do? I can maybe take on one client where I talk to once a week, like it's like a fractional kind of CEO or some level of consultant coach kind of thing. Anyway, so I started out more general business coaching where it was like, oh, how do I, position my brand, or how do I build this initial team, or price my products or whatever. And I did that for about a year, and had most of my clients were between like 750 grand and like 2 million. And I think every single time, we'd get on these calls or whatever, and they'd be having this issue or that issue. Like the more we would dive into them, the more and more it was like, oh, this is like a financial issue. Like you're bloated on your team. So you're never going to feel the way you want to feel because you just have too many people. You know what I'm saying? Like the way to solve this is actually cutting, or your gross margin level, meaning like your revenue minus your cost of goods to deliver whatever you sold. That number you have after that isn't enough to cover the actual company you need, to support that revenue or that, development. And so, we go in there and adjust the pricing strategy, or increase the efficiency of cost of goods, or decrease some of those things. Anyway, so I kind of went from general business strategy and coaching to, all right, I'm going to coach you, but through like a financial lens, so that was like the next step of going deeper.
So you start with the finances and then kind of work.
Yeah, like, okay, I know all the different pillars of the business, finance, operations, brand, product, people, all these things. But I'd look at it through the financial lens. Like, so if your people shouldn't cost you, let's say, more than 20% of your revenue, like, okay, this is how we're going to look. Okay, so we're going to look, not only do you have the right people on the bus, but like, is it the right percentage of revenue? Because you can own, like your business can't, if it's too bloated somewhere, like a lot of people, when you're below $500,000 in revenue, the biggest expense is probably the owner's salary, right? Yeah. So like if we can't work a way around that, then the business is being like kind of sucked dry, and you have to either decrease that or increase. There's only so many things you can do, right?
Yeah, there's only two main levers, and then.
Yeah, we would do that, kind of like look at the business strategy through a financial lens.
Right.
And a lot of that conversation was like, all right, let's see your P&L, let's see your balance sheet, let's see how you're, looking at cash flows, whatever. And we'd look at it and I say, okay, go tell your bookkeeper, your accountant, like, go do this. Like this is misitemized on your P&L, and we need to adjust this so you can see profitability, or have them run this report or whatever. And it was interesting because like parallel to this is me growing in confidence. Like, oh, the things I actually did in Citizen, like, I'm not broken. Does that make sense? Like, right. I actually did a lot of things right, which was why we survived so long. So it's kind of like this
catastrophe.
Yeah, like a once in 100 year thing.
Yeah, not since 1914 that we had before. So
so you just have these two things going along where I'm going in deeper with the client. I'm also growing in confidence. And then it was literally like, I think either the end of last year or early this year, what I was telling them to go do with their bookkeeper. And they're in a whirlwind, right? They have entrepreneurs have so much going on. Like, it wasn't getting done. And I was like, we have spent 4 months like trying to get this one thing solved, and finally I just asked a few, I was like, do you want me to just solve this for you? Like, do you just want me to do this for you? which was like, there's a huge responsibility in taking care of somebody's finances, but it was amazing how terrible so many of their bookkeepers and accountants and their financial services they were using were.
Right.
So they said yes, and I basically, like I said, I just asked, and they were like, yeah, and I just went and figured out, like, I found some people that could do this work with me, come into the scope, and I would lead the charge on what needed to get done. They would execute it, and we're like turning these ships around like super quick.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I used to be in finance, we were talking about before, but that was before I had, that was, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago. And you're only looking through it one lens when you're seeing that. And you probably maybe know some of the answers, but you don't feel confident enough to say it. So you're taking kind of a more holistic
It's almost like an entrepreneurial approach to financial services, because like a bookkeeper is not going to flag down an entrepreneur and say like, you really need to solve this.
Right.
And like, they're not going to do that. And the entrepreneur typically doesn't know how to speak the financial language. So they're not going to be able to like prove the bookkeeper, whoever wrong.
Yes.
And so I think for me, so we're doing like financial services now, like full on, bookkeeping, accounting, controllership, fractional CFO. And I sometimes I come and coach on top of that.
Right.
But like what the entrepreneur needs is like done for you services. And we're really focusing on brands and companies under 10 million, because there's these things called valleys of death that happen. And it's basically when the company hits a ceiling and from a capability standpoint, you can't afford the thing that you need, right? So you have to like risk something. And
like, what's an example of that?
Like if you're going from, let's say, 500,000 to $1 million, right? You're basically going from, this is a key point because the entrepreneur himself or herself got it to that based on their own time.
Right.
So now you've hit a time capability, you hit a time limit ceiling.
Right.
And so you're like, now I've got to delegate to an executive assistant or some level of management or executor to get to $1 million. So I've got to invest some of my profit or decrease my salary to afford this person, right?
Yeah.
And there's a time where you're training or that delegation you're kind of doing, but you're training and you're still doing, and then you're handing it off. And how long does it take the results to actually there to be an ROI on that investment up? And that's so that's a death valley, and there's one between like 1 and 5 million where like at that point you need this like integrator that's almost like you've got more of a top, it's almost like CEO and COO is a good way to put it. Like somebody is like up and out and somebody's down and in, but you start needing that piece because you can't manage all the people and do all things like pushing the brand forward. Like it just really gets some friction. But to afford that person, like once you start needing to afford like a management team, you don't see an immediate ROI because they're managing people, and it takes time for them to learn the business, to get acclimated with their team, to fix the things, and then for those fixings to turn into either more margin efficiency or revenue, whatever it may be. And so you go through, I think, probably 3 or 4 of these before you hit 10 million, and they're so critical. And so the founder CEO, and this was my experience, like I didn't know they were there until they were there. And like if you don't have somebody beyond you saying, hey, this is exactly what's going to happen, these are the components to it. It's still a hard season, but it's much easier because they've condensed all their experience into you can learn what I learned. It took me 10 years to learn. You can learn this in like 5 months or whatever.
It's very valuable.
And so again, from a financial perspective, during that time, you need a CFO, but you cannot afford a CFO. You don't need a CFO in a company until after that company is probably 20, 30 million.
Right.
But you need something like some level of strategy fractionally. Okay. So for me, I think the value that we're bringing is I have experience being in their shoes. I think entrepreneur. I also have had experience of working with really great financial teams, and I was forced to learn finances in a way that makes I can really understand them. So I'm just trying to be a bridge between these two people to say, hey, as you're going through this death valley, let's get some KPIs here on employee number 1, how do they affect the P&L? What are the KPIs that define success for them, and how can we, because all a financial statement is a lagging measure. It's just a result, right? So we got to really be effective on the financial front. We've got to say what influenced this, And so what's the lever for the thing that influenced this? And that's what I want to do, is create a system that's like pretty painless for them to understand and then go affect change in their business. So finances that are clear, really clear reporting, proactive communication, that whole thing, plus like we're effective or affecting the things that matter in their business. Like, hey, we see your gross margin decrease by like 5% this quarter. Like, you're doing too many discounts, or there's too many returns, or something's going on. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Like, if you have that, then okay. But what's happening is, I think most entrepreneurs, they're like on whatever the biggest fire is. So they're like a year down, and it's like, hey, this has been slowly building for a year. Now it's like, will we survive this issue,
And sometimes there's probably not a willingness to look at it without it being kind of someone like you coming along and saying, actually, you need to look at this.
Oh yeah, it's back to the way I was with Citizen, is like, revenue will cover all the sins. So they're just like, I just need more revenue. Like, I just need more revenue.
Which is true, but if you hit a roadblock, right.
Because like for you with your video services, if you go if you're scaling top line like crazy, awesome. But then if the way you're structuring those deals is, let's say 15% too little, because to pay for the team to go help you do that, and then to pay for all the admin costs and operational costs underneath that. If you want to have like let's say 20% profitability on your business, if you underprice by 15, 17%, well, there goes like all your profit. You're ending the year at like a 3% profitability, which is actual hell to try to navigate that kind of business. So yeah, I think it's just like, it's really, are we pricing correctly? What's the volume we can deliver at? Like, what's the volume need to be on our sales? Are we delivering efficiently? Are we disciplined, in our operating costs? Like, does everybody know what they do in the company and understand how they affect success of the company? And then, are we really smart with how we spend that cash left over, like saving for taxes, not getting in debt? And then, because ultimately, again, back to the point, if entrepreneurship is the way you build wealth, it's the best way too. If you're an entrepreneur that's like, I don't want to learn this, then you're an idiot, because this is how you build wealth. Like, if you want to build wealth but you don't do this, you're an idiot, because this is actually how you do it. Like,
you're going to have to confront it at some point.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like, oh, I'm going to sell my business. I'm like, if you sell like a business, the multiple on that is going to be like, it won't be enough to for you to sail into the sunset.
Whoever's
like,
going to buy it are going to be
exist.
looking,
you got taxes, and whoever helped you sell it, and then whoever your partners are, and like all this stuff. Like, unless you build one of these like tech companies that is like a unicorn, and you're just like,
well, right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there is a point where you're just like, okay, this is so much money, like I can do whatever. But that is such a fractional percentage of people that do that. Like,
it's like somebody getting to the NBA. Like, it's not a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think you can build legitimate wealth in 10 years with a $300,000 to $500,000 company. If it's, choose your lane, choose kind of what lifestyle you want to have going forward. But if you have like a really healthy business, I would push people to try to get to $1 million, past $1 million. I think that's really where it shortens the timeline. You can get people to help you fulfill those things, but you can build legitimate wealth. Like, I mean, like, you can live a lifestyle now, and then you can sell that business, or turn it into something where somebody's fulfilling it for you. You're just, you're reaping the profit of that, and there's so many more options, but it requires through working this muscle that I think a lot of entrepreneurs are hesitant to do.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I was working on my taxes yesterday. By the way, we have an extension in Georgia because of the
No, we do in
hurricanes.
Tennessee too.
Oh, good. Okay, good. So
this is a lifesaver.
Anyway,
it was a lifesaver.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah.
Although it wasn't really nice diving back in. I mean, I kind of knew some stuff, but I'd definitely taken a step away from it more so than I should have.
Because you're building a business,
because you get busy fulfilling orders and your, product and working and marketing. I mean, which that's one of the tough, it's funny because we're talking about, you saw the need because you were generally coaching, which, by the way, I should sidestep and say, I just had a guy in here, he runs a recruiting business, Daniel Stinson, do you know him? Fantastic guy.
I hope I don't really. If we'd met before, I just forgot. He was like,
great.
What the hell?
I don't think you know well. I just thought maybe you may have crossed paths. But he did a mastermind program.
Yeah, cool.
Last year, I believe it was. And, it was one of those things, it was expensive to join, but he's kind of credited it with pretty much all the growth that he's had. So I think coaching, and especially coaching where you're really pulling the right levers and you're having accountability, because so much of business is about action. You know, it's and if something motivates you to take the right actions and can also save you. I mean, I'm so fortunate because, I mean, even through this and having a lot of other great, I don't really have an official coach. Okay, maybe I should, but I do have a lot of people. Okay, yeah, I know, yeah. I'll get your info after this. But yeah, so it can also save you from months of kind of doing the wrong thing. That's been the biggest thing. And I kind of do have it through the Story Brand community that I'm doing some of that. So there is a lot of resources in that community for sure. But that's one of the biggest things to me. Is like, you can sit down at the table for an hour or two with someone and walk away and be like, man, I was about to work on something for 2 or 3 months that would have been, and go in a totally different direction. And it can, I mean, the amount of time, money, effort, stress, all of it that it can save you. So all that to say, coaching is just, you know, I think there's a lot of coaches out there right now. So that's the other part, is you got to find one.
You got to find the right one.
And especially, I love that you've fallen into the financial side, because you guys did have some pretty complicated finances to deal with when you were at Ponce and running Citizen Supply, because you had all your vendors, multiple. I mean, how many vendors did you guys?
I don't know, like 200 something at a time. I mean, I don't know where it was at when it was at its peak, but like inventory, you know, you had thousands of SKUs.
Right.
But I think that was the big thing, is I had a friend that took over our books because my initial accountant was so terrible. We got like a $90,000 bill from Department of Revenue being like, oh, you haven't paid your sales tax. Wow. I'm like, yo, bookkeeper, like, what's up with this? And so you're fired. You know that, right? You're fired, right? And one of my friends, I can't remember it 100%, but I'm pretty sure the company she worked with, and she was like chief of staff, CFO for, he exited, like they got acquired. So she, you know, moved out of that business to start her own little firm. And she was like, hey, I'm building this. Do you want to be one of our first clients? And I was like, sure. So I got her as a bookkeeper accountant, but she was already a CFO. So I got the full spectrum.
Right.
And we were probably at $1.5 million in revenue then. And so, I mean, 90 days, it was like a whole different, like she negotiated with DOR. She gave me reporting. I got to see like year over year how we were comparing, you know, let's look at our key metrics. Like, what are my conversion rates? What are my average order values? Like, what are these things? And it just gave me enough of a framework to go back and say, now I need to go make these decisions. Like, I was always like, I wasn't trying to figure out the numbers ever. I was just had them, and they just supported my decision making, you know, going forward. So I got to see what it was like, just front, you know, and center the best it could be. And it's awesome because we're actually like working together again. She's one of our CFOs that we bring.
Oh, really? Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, she's on these first couple clients that are using it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and then not only did you have all the vendors, but you also had a multinational conglomeration of a property manager that you were, you know, and so you were having to deal with splits with them. And so, I mean, you have a lot of authority as well.
We weren't splitting with them. I mean, it was, but I was negotiating like lease terms every single year.
I remember.
Yeah. And I think that like I got the company I built, you know what I'm saying? Like I think when you look at, when you look at these outcomes entrepreneurs are dealing with, a lot of it is based in the immaturity that they had when they started it or whatever they were like in that season. So we're kind of always dealing with our past a little bit, you know, like I'm dealing with my past self because he said that was a great idea and it's not a great idea. Now I know that, but I'm still dealing with it. And so, yeah, the things I was signing were so big and so long again that it took too long to turn it around. But I think, again, a lot of the things I'm bringing now are this like urgency. So it's just this urgency of you have got to change this now or you will be done, you know? And now it's like, I've been through bankruptcy. So I've been through the worst thing.
Right.
And I'm like, you'll make it. But like, if you want to avoid that, like you have to change this thing. Cause I do think a lot of entrepreneurs, they are kind of, they're not saying what needs to be said to the team. Like I see a lot of their team members that are just kind of getting by on mediocre work. And I don't think they understand how much they need them to be efficient, you know?
Yes.
I think that they're kind of doing deals that are like just trying to get the deal done versus, hey, are we making enough? Because if you don't charge enough, you can't fulfill well, you know, and you're kind of always in this cycle. And so, yeah, I kind of just am trying to be like, if this were my company money,
right.
like what would I do? And just tell them that point blank.
Well, and I think some of it too is probably the type of personality that we have, or the trait in our personality that's okay with risk.
Yeah.
Probably has a lot of optimism in them too. Can sometimes be dangerously maybe optimistic. And when it comes to finances, that's a black and white thing.
Well,
that
you know how, like,
have
probably
to
in your house, you have like one closet or room that's just like a disaster.
catch all.
Yeah, you're just like,
oh yeah,
oh, whatever. Yeah, it's just,
I'm supposed to be building a shed.
And I think
to
that's
that line.
finances. I think entrepreneurs, they push as hard as they can on the sales side and the marketing side, typically do the best they can with, okay, leading the team, you know, like they do operations, but finance is like, I'll deal with that later, you know? And so it's just this.
Which is me on April 29th doing my taxes, you know?
But the bigger the company grows, the more complex it gets and the worse it gets. So if you're doing that where you are now, and then you 10x your business and you still have that same mentality.
So how do you, when you go in and you get started with clients that are, I'm guessing they're coming to you through LinkedIn or however you're finding them, do you have them migrate over to a software that you use, or do you just jump in where they're at? How hard or easy is the process to?
I mean, it's super simple. I think that, so I have a team that I'm using that is holding the roles of bookkeeper, accountant, controller, and fractional CFO. So I'm still, for the most part, sitting in this more of like a coach, advisor, consulting seat. So the way I do this is, a lot of times, I mean, most of the things are referral kind of thing right now. Like it's people from my network coming in.
Yep.
But the initial 90 days are, I think, what we do more different than anybody. It's like, everybody needed everything yesterday, you know, and they can't afford like the cost of switching. So for the most part, this front 90 days, what we're focusing on is cleaning up the past books. So like looking at what hasn't been reconciled, what is miscategorized within their P&L, so they can get an understanding of their profitability. So we're looking at cleaning up the past, getting them like real clarity. So like, what is the actual health of the business? And then the thing that I'm working on with them pretty quickly is a profitability and like cash analysis, basically. Because I mean, entrepreneurs, like, you think in cash, right? It's like, you're looking at like, what do the next 90 days look like? You know, like, where's my money gonna go? What am I gonna be like? Like, how urgent is making sales right now? Like, what's my run rate, you know? And so I try to get them a really clear look at, if these are the sales you make for the next 90 days, and this is how much it costs you in the business, this is what cash looks like for the next 90 days. Like, just as quick as you can, so that you can either grow in confidence, like, okay, we're good. This is like we can just have this healthy cadence to it, or like really pointing at how urgent it is to go solve the revenue problem, or the expense problem within the business. So I kind of work in tandem. Like, the bookkeepers will come in, start cleaning everything up.
Right.
I'll come in, start working on strategy. And if they're a big enough company for a CFO, the CFO or the controller is really guiding kind of both of us. Like, the work I'm doing, you know, we're making sure we're understanding all the complexities of it. The work that the bookkeeper's doing, it's making sure it's like they have support as they work through the financials. So I find that, like, again, like, people under $10 million, really underneath $5 million, your choices are to either do your books yourselves. You go to like a solo practitioner bookkeeper you're typically going to be not great communication. It's just, they can't think it mostly at a strategic level. So you're going to miss that strategic component, or you're going to go to a huge firm, you know, and you're just going to you're going to be such a microscopic deal for them because you're so small that you're not going to get anything, you know? And so I think we really want to drive, like, okay, where are you? Where do you want to go? What's that gap? Let's get a plan around this. And then, like, let's just drive this clarity and cadence, you know, through like clear reporting and clear communication and all this stuff, and just like make momentum for them.
Yes. And give them kind of new targets. Like,
yeah, just whatever their targets are. Like, I mean, some people will just throw numbers like, oh, I want to just double revenue. Okay, well, like, how? You know, like, how are you going to do this? And how far is that? And is that possible? And what do we need to be tracking? I mean, there's a lot of people that bring us on that just are saying, hey, I just need accountability. Like, when you're an entrepreneur, I remember even with 35 employees, like, nobody was holding me accountable.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like you have to, like you're giving them lanes, and there's definitely great collaboration, and I want them to speak truth to me. So I want that, but ultimately, I think from the financial piece, the opportunity is like, this is the way it is. Like if you want your company to continue forward in health, like you have to be, aware of this stuff.
When you were doing it, how many people had access to the information that you're now accessing with?
Oh yeah, far too many. I mean, too few. Sorry, far too few.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we did. We were really good at having scoreboards of like, so they saw like sales goals and
revenue,
average or order values, things like that. But like what they didn't see was, the health of the business to whatever level they were. And it was about a year before we called it, maybe even less. Maybe it was like 6 months. I finally gave my director, here it is, because there was no other options at that point. And I was so worked up and so anxious about having that conversation. And she just was like, these are scary numbers, but like, I'm not scared. And I was like, damn it, like I should have done this from like day one. It just made and I think a lot of that was because I was just embarrassed because I didn't know, or I didn't know how to solve the problem. I felt like I had to be like, hey, here's the plan. And I think that's the whole point of this is, I do teach a lot of how to be, have open book management in your company, especially with your key leaders.
Yeah.
And you need that collaboration. If you've delegated responsibility for some lane of the business, even if it's just store management or, fulfilling, if they don't understand like, hey, if things get returned because they're or damaged or whatever, like this all eats into the bottom line, and that's ultimately the health of the business. It's a collaboration. And so we just, again, I think that the more we can build up the entrepreneurs, like literacy and understanding and push for that, like the healthier of company they're going to get.
Do you find yourself educating team members often on so that there are more people involved in the process, basically, to more accountability, basically?
It depends on the size of the company.
Right.
I think, again, once you get to like 1 to 2 to 5 million, that's when you start getting a little bit of a leadership team.
Yeah.
10 million, you maybe have three full on like director level, maybe like one C-suite. And I think we try to be fully transparent there, and then like maybe for every level down, they're just seeing it's rolled up. Like nobody knows how much everybody else makes, all these things. But what we want is everybody to understand the health and for their, like, you're not going to get incentivized, Mr. Employee, Mrs. Employee, if we completely miss this target, because then the company isn't healthy. Like we can't afford to give you that incentive.
Right.
So if they understand, have that line of sight and ownership over their role, chances are you'll have a harder working team. It's just interesting. So I think once we pass the hurdle of, I don't know, shame or whatever that entrepreneur is dealing with, and we really just kind of empower them, grow their confidence, and can start turning it into like a team effort. It just like, that's how they get what they want. And then what they want is wealth and time and all those things back. And it just is so much easier when you got a whole team working towards the same goal.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. I love where you've landed with this. And I love how you discovered it too, with obviously all the experience and the authority that you gained with your former business, and then seeing it in the coaching that I talk about it all the time with what we do. Like, I know the value of it because of how much I hate doing it for myself.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's so hard to talk about yourself. I can go in and come up with a lot of, I think great stuff for you to say, and using, some of the story brand framework and all the things that we do and make it look good. But I hate doing it for myself. And I hate hitting send or post or whatever on all the stuff. Like, you go through all these, and I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs that feel the exact same way. There's agonizing over what they're putting out into the world. And so anyway, I think that's the best way to discover the need. And you kind of, it feels like you've really honed in on something that is so valuable and is providing so much value to all of your customers. And I love that it didn't scare you away from, I didn't figure it ever would with you, but that your experience through all the things that we've talked about, you're still head on, wind in your sails, entrepreneur, and now helping other entrepreneurs. So that's an incredible story.
Yeah, cool.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love to see it from that night, sitting at the pub, to this moment here. It's been really fun to watch. So
yeah, and it's interesting because I think that there's it's interesting how much fear is in the water with AI stuff, but I honestly think that we're shifting into an entrepreneur-led. Like there's going to be so many opportunities for entrepreneurs because
Yes.
I do think entrepreneurs are the creative thinkers, the problem solvers. You know, they're opportunistic.
Right.
And I think like if you can just view what's coming down the pipe with this from that lens and like through curiosity versus like fear,
Right.
you can legitimately like there's gonna be, like this country was built by entrepreneurs. You know, like there's going to be a huge opportunity there. So, you know, I think that you can turn a company around. I'm not saying just with AI, but there's so many more things that are available to us now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I didn't even have AI when I started Citizen, you know, like, and I'm thinking, what would have been possible with that, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I think even for you, it's like, I think the optimism that you bring is refreshing to whoever you work with because it's just like, yeah, they're in the whirlwind. They're just like, they're just trying to deal with their own problems, but you'd be like, hey, tell me the story. Like, nobody's asking that. They're not asking themselves that question. They're almost like not prioritizing it. And I think that the thing that you do is you focus on, like for a company that is long term, like in it for the long term, right? The long tail is focusing on like the vision and positioning. And if that story isn't being told, then they're going to always feel like they're scrambling. You know?
Right. Yeah, I agree. The brand, like building the brand long term to kind of know what you're getting and having them know who they're working for. Their customer's identity is a big thing that we work on a lot. So.
Well, it's like, again, it's like AI makes the knowledge of things so accessible.
Right.
The competitive edge turns into being like, oh, well, how human are you and relatable are you and all these things. And what you do is you bring that element to, like, oh, you're not just this super cold brand,
right?
You know, or whatever. You're this real thing, and I resonate with you as a person. And yeah, who cares how we solve the thing as long as the thing gets solved? It could be AI or whatever. But yeah, I think it's really cool.
It looks and feels, and you're saying things that are authentic. I feel like that will always resonate, and it might resonate even more in the age of AI because we're going to see. I mean, already you can see all these videos. Now, you know, at some point we might not be able to tell the difference, so that'll be tough. But you know, when you're seeing video and photos now, and but people just authentically getting up and talking about their messaging, I think will always have a place, like what you're doing here today. So
yeah, for sure.
Man, thanks so much for doing this. I freaking loved it. It's great.
Yeah. A couple years from now, we'll do it again. And
let's do it again.
We'll see, like,
maybe not even that long. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. We'll see if all this still makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, actually, AI did take over, and now we're just
actually, it's not even us.
Yeah, exactly. Man, thanks again.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate you. All right.
Maybe cut the
we'll cut that one out.